Hola and welcome to Slowpoke Travel. Today we're going to talk about New Orleans, where we just spent a month. We just got back from a month-long house sit. I've got when we first start going down Magazine Street, how bad the road is. So I'll start the video off with that stretch, and the audio is not great on it, but it gives you some idea of some of the roads you might encounter. And this isn't even the bad roads.
Some of those
I don't
roads
know
were
how it
worse
used to be because
than.
I've never driven in New Orleans. This is my first experience really driving in New Orleans, and the roads are pretty, in certain areas they're almost laughably bad.
Oh yeah, infrastructure.
But I'll start the video off with that stretch of Magazine where Magazine starts near the Mississippi River and the levee, heading towards downtown. So the audio is kind of bad, but once I get past that little stretch, then we'll go into the different audio.
All right.
All right, so this is the start of Magazine Street. The levee's right behind us. This is Audubon Park Zoo. Get the shot of the zoo there. Son of a butt.
Oh my Lord.
And we were staying in an area just to the west of South Claiborne. Does that sound right? So it's actually from where we were staying, it was probably a half-hour walk over to Napoleon Avenue. And as far as walking to the French Quarter, it really wasn't viable. So it was a new area for me to be in for an extended period of time in New Orleans, because I lived there a lot throughout the 1990s and into the aughts. And we had gone there before on a kind of a vacation trip.
And I'd been there before.
Yeah, oh, that's right. We got a picture of you and I on Bourbon Street.
Yes.
When was that taken?
I was on your shoulders.
What year was that?
Oh God, I don't remember. But I was on your shoulder and I took a picture down Bourbon with the crowds of people.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was when you came and visited me, I think the first time that I lived in New Orleans, and it was off of St. Charles Avenue, because that was the only time that you visited me.
Because you were in the Garden District.
Yes, right around near Napoleon and St. Charles Avenue. And in this video here that you're watching, this is going to be kind of a podcast, a discussion, but I'm also going to put some visuals of Magazine Street, because we drove kind of from where Magazine butts up against the Mississippi River. It's more in the uptown area. I don't know what that area is called. Way over by the river in the levee, Magazine Street bends and turns towards Carrollton. But we drove the length of Magazine Street, but not into the downtown area. We'll have some visuals of Magazine Street, a drive that we did along Magazine Street in New Orleans, which you said would be an area that you were interested in living in if we lived in New Orleans.
Well, the part that was near the Audubon Zoo, the park.
Yeah.
What's the road that I always seem to butcher the name? TC.
Oh, Tchoupitoulas?
Tchoupitoulas.
Yeah, because we did our grocery shopping on Tchoupitoulas, even though we were house sitting a few miles away. That was the easiest grocery store for us to get to with parking. I mean, parking in New Orleans is something you really got to consider.
Yeah, but we also walked around a lot in the Fremont area, and I mean
The Fremont area, where are you at? You in Seattle?
Oh, what was it called?
You talking about around Ferret Street?
Ferret.
Yeah, I don't know. We didn't do too much walking. We did some walking up around those areas, but it really wasn't
as walkable as we would love to have as a nesting area.
Yeah, but we did sort of keep our eyes open for places to live in New Orleans. In fact, the whole time that we were in New Orleans, I was on Craigslist daily looking at
least
properties.
Once a day.
Yeah, and on different real estate sites. But Craigslist is really iffy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of scamming going on Craigslist, so you really have to be a little paranoid looking at some of it. If it looks too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
What was the one where you even sent a text to the fella?
Yeah.
Oh, you were supposed to pay the security, pay everything sight unseen of the apartment because of COVID.
It was some rental in the Bywater area, which we were very interested in. If we were going to find a place in New Orleans, but it was so overpriced. But I found one on Craigslist that looked too good to be true. And sure enough, when I contacted the people about it, they replied to me immediately, and with a note saying, well, they weren't actually showing the place in person, but they
and weren't even given an address, because we had gone through the area and hadn't seen that place. We thought we had been pretty.
I found it on Google Maps. I found it everywhere it was. I saw it and it looked. The pictures all matched up, but you can't go by that because people will take pictures. They will take listings.
That's true too.
Previous listings, previous rentals, and then they'll put some too good to be true price on there, in the hopes of getting somebody so interested that you'll give over kind of personal financial information.
Or just give cash. Hey, if you'll give us, because it wasn't just a $40, let me check into you. It was the security deposit.
If they can get the deposit, if they can get all that stuff, they'll rent you a place that they don't even own.
Exactly.
And then you'll be up Shite Creek. I don't know how all that scamming works, but I know it's out there. So you really got to be cognizant about it.
But instead, and you're right, there were some that seemed legit, but on Craigslist there was a couple of scammy ones. But you ended up being on Zillow a bit, or was it Redfin? Where did you go?
They had rentals on Zillow. You can find rentals all over the place.
Yes.
But they're pretty pricey in New Orleans. Like when
people want to be there.
Every time I have lived in New Orleans, I've just gone to New Orleans and walked around and found a for rent sign in a window and called the number, and that's how you get a place.
I think you're dating yourself now.
Yeah. That was back before cell phones and the internet and all that stuff.
Before we had a wheel.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm as old as you are.
Yeah, so yeah. It didn't really work that way this time. You can see those, you can see for rent stuff. You're really not dealing with people anymore. You're not dealing with Joe Blow's got a rental. Almost everybody's got a rental management company, so you're filling out applications and paying application fees, and I don't know. That can be good.
I was going to say, I think there is a trend where people are coming together to buy properties because they couldn't do it on their own as an investment.
Yeah.
There's some exciting things about it,
but it's hard to discover a deal or a treasure. Because it's hard to find somebody that's going to rent a place and they just want a good tenant and they're going to give you a great price. You're basically going to be going through a management company who are going to set a price that's going to be kind of a standard price depending on the things in the area. You're not really going to get a deal. You're going to get whatever the market value is.
But if you want to live in a place like the French Quarter or the Bywater, somewhere that's really walkable and have a lot of services, that just might be the reality.
Yeah, but that's not even really a neighborhood anymore. It was getting to not be a neighborhood when I lived there. No, the French Quarter. When I lived in the French Quarter...
yes. And more touristy.
There were people that lived in the French Quarter. And people still live in the French Quarter.
But not as many.
Yeah, but more and more, those apartments and, any accommodation in the French Quarter is going to be geared towards tourist travel, some sort of vacation rental. They're just going to get more money like that. We have seen some rentals, where they'll just do a 6-month lease. You can get a 6-month lease in the quarter, because at a great price, but it's only going to be during the summer months because they're not going to, rent you a prime piece of real estate in the quarter for $2,000 a month, year round.
When they could get twice as much during Mardi Gras.
Yeah, because when January, February rolls around, there's 2 months there where they can get $2,000 a week.
Yeah. But the bottom line is, it's deciding where you want to be. Even the Airbnb that we stayed in a couple of nights before we were in the house that, I think you have another video where you sort of grouse about the price.
It was the least expensive that we could get.
And still be comfortable and blah, blah, blah.
But it's still, we paid over $400 or around $400 for those 2 nights.
For 2 nights.
Once you tack on taxes and fees and stuff. And it can't be helped for an Airbnb rental in New Orleans. They have to kind of charge a little bit because there's a lot of taxes involved. Because the hotels there, the laws are set so that you kind of have to charge a lot for your Airbnb. You can't undercut people too much. The taxes are high enough to where to make it viable for folks to rent their places in Airbnb, they have to have a kind of significant price.
But there also seems to be another trend where more people, if they have an a single investment property, it's a single investor, whatever, you buy a place, you can make more money potentially with Airbnb than you can renting it out for 12 months, or even 6 months, or a month by month, or blah, blah, blah. So that's the other thing I think we realized when we were in New Orleans is you're in a place where a lot of people want to be. You might find more Airbnbs than you would find rentals. You can pay a lot of money if you want to be there.
Yeah, we couldn't find anything that we'd want to pay. With utilities, for the things that we saw we'd be interested in, you'd be paying like $2,000 a month.
Or more.
To live in half a shotgun. So you're wall to wall with somebody.
Yeah, not just one room.
The old wooden floors. It's going to be noisy. You're really close together. I don't know, it's a lot. When I lived in the French Quarter, last time I lived in New Orleans, which was around the turn of the century, I lived in the same spot for 3 years, and I think I was paying right around, I think I started off at $450 a month.
That was a very small studio, correct?
Is
that the one you're talking about?
Slave quarter apartment. So, I don't know, it's hard to describe. There's a bedroom and a kitchen and a balcony along the outside, a little bathroom in the middle. Super duper small. If you had a couch, you couldn't live there.
Didn't you have people come visit and they had to sleep on the kitchen floor?
Well, yeah. I'd have something in the kitchen floor for your. Yeah.
So you had to know Buck well.
Yeah. Well, only people that know me well would come, just family. In fact, it was only my family that visited me when I was living in the French Quarter, and a couple of ex-girlfriends.
Yeah.
And my other friend.
Yes.
But yeah, you had to know me intimately.
Well, that was the same way.
Or by the time you left, you knew me intimately.
What that was like the last place we lived in Seattle now it was bigger than that. It was a bigger studio apartment, but literally you were on a mattress on the other. We basically set up a fake place in the middle of this bigger room. So it was the same thing.
Yeah.
You had to know us well.
Yeah, people that visited us in Seattle slept in the same room that we did.
That's right.
If they stayed with us. But
anyway.
It was expensive to live in Seattle. And
sure.
I think looking in New Orleans, as we did recently, it would have cost us just as much to live in New Orleans as it did in Seattle.
Yeah.
And the areas in New Orleans that are appealing to live in, it's a smaller area.
It's a smaller area, and perhaps the crime rate is higher.
There's a definite dilapidation to New Orleans.
That's appealing in one hand.
It's hella charming. Certain areas, where the ramshackle nature of New Orleans, just the age, the texture, and the feel of the vibrancy and life of New Orleans. It has a certain charm that's very appealing when you're in those super cool areas.
And the history and the architecture.
Yeah. But then once you cross a line outside of those areas, all of a sudden it just becomes, very junky and doesn't have the charm.
Excuse me for interrupting you. Even in the areas, you're looking out the balcony one night and you watch this guy go down the road trying all the car doors to see if there were any unlocked to steal something.
Yeah, but that's anywhere. Any place you live, if you leave your car unlocked.
It can happen anywhere.
You don't want to leave anything in your car any place. Certainly not visible.
Thank you, Ranger Danger.
I'm just telling you. I mean, we actually argue about this. She thinks that it's not necessary to be concerned about
Wait a minute.
Which makes her not a prime candidate for living in New Orleans. You got to lock everything up.
That's true. I totally agree with you about that.
Yeah.
That I think that's one of the things I recognized is if I don't have enough situational awareness, it would not be worth the two of us living there because you'd be hyper vigilant all the time, and I'd be.
Gotta be. There are a lot of economic factors in New Orleans that, the haves and the have-nots. There is quite a little bit of a disparity,
That's
although
everywhere.
not as much of a disparity as there used to be. If you're in the prime areas,
post Katrina,
in New Orleans, there's so much gentrification now.
yes. Even I saw that.
We had Airbnb in Bywater. I'm walking around at night, pretty comfortably. There's a lot. It's a very vibrant, overpriced area now. Now, once you cross St. Claude and get out into some areas on the edges of the bywater, you know, it looks like the old New Orleans, and I don't know what it's like in those areas, so we didn't spend any time there. But in the bywater, I mean, that place has been gentrified.
Because you said the place we stayed used to be no, you didn't go there at night.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, well, you saw the fancy pants restaurants and bakeries and all that stuff, and people lined up for brunches, and I mean, it was a very happening area.
This time.
Yeah. So in the Faubourg Marigny, that's kind of like getting like that when I was there before. But there's a restaurant that we ate at. You know, I used to eat there in the 90s, above the Apple Barrel.
Armand's?
No, Adolfo's.
Adolfo's.
You know, and it was just a little rinky-dink place. Great food. It was just a fun, cool spot. And when we were there in 2008 or 9 or whatever it was, we ate there, and it was, you know, a cool spot, and it was, you know, becoming more popular.
Great mussels.
And yeah, now this time it's like one of the city's hot spots, and it's just hard to get into, and we didn't even eat there this time. I mean, Frenchman Street, the thing is that everything sort of looks the same. New Orleans looked the same. But of course, I'm different, you know, which I talked about in another video.
Oh, meaning older, not in your 20s?
Yeah. I don't know if it has the same appeal, but it's just a, I don't know. I think we're priced out of New Orleans. I think if you just want to throw a backpack on and go live in New Orleans, it's gonna, you know, just show up in town and find a place to live. You're probably not going to do it in the Bywater or the French Quarter or any area around there. You know, you're probably going to have to be out a little bit on even the edges of that. Or at least that's how it seemed to me during the month that we were there and I was looking around. There was nothing cheap. Well, there was one place that I saw on Burgundy Street. Remember, they kind of looked really kind of dilapidated. Third floor walk up. And that was the kind of place, you know, it was kind of like, I don't know, it looked like it was not a place that was kept up. I'm sure there were problems. I'm sure it had a lot of character.
That's very generous of you.
Well, you didn't want to even look at it.
No.
But that was a great location at a doable price, and I think it would have been super duper funky. Probably would have been hot as hell in the summertime. You know, we'd probably been living with a bunch of interesting characters in the other apartments.
That would have been okay. Safety, cleanliness. I'm not sure we wouldn't have been electrocuted at some point.
Yeah, well, who knows? You didn't want to look.
Trust your instincts.
Location.
There's two of us.
I can make a lot of compromises for the right location and the right price.
We did in Seattle. I can as well.
You compromised in Seattle on location and price? Where did we stay in Seattle that was not nice? Wait a minute.
When we first moved there and we lived in Chinatown, we were in 288 square feet.
Something like that.
It was clean.
Doesn't even sound possible.
No, it
doesn't. I forgot. Well, was
no
it that
window.
big?
Yeah.
Wasn't it like 150 square feet?
I don't remember. But anyway, it was small. And the only window was one window that looked out over this cement roof. Anyway, and you are right.
It was incredibly small.
We stayed there.
It was
They're not going to be able to
than that kitchen. I bet it was half the size of that kitchen.
Yeah, y'all see that kitchen over there?
Well, I'm just saying for us to just talk about how amazingly small
I know we're talking about New Orleans. My point is, you are right. We compromised, and we could walk to so many great neighborhoods besides the one we were in. It was fantastic. Yeah. But we had no space. I mean, so yeah, you just got out of the place all the time. But it was very clean. Yeah. Okay, there was that place. And then the place we ended up on Capitol Hill was big enough for the two of us. Not big enough to have visitors, really, unless they really knew us. It was also very clean, and it was kept up well. But if we were going to buy somewhere, we would probably have a little more space. Yeah. So that's my only point about compromising. Yes, I have. I felt like, I've compromised. Yeah. Compared to what an ultimate nest would look like. So I agree with you, but that place you're talking about gave off so many vibes that it wasn't going to work.
It was pictures on the internet. You
Buck
didn't
was
just
being romantic.
At it.
He was just being romantic.
You got to get out there and look.
Sometimes you do.
You know.
But by that point, I guess I had already said, yeah. I don't have this
wasn't feeling
situation,
it. You weren't feeling New Orleans.
you know, you can. That's the other thing. To me, that's another takeaway. So we really thought, yeah, New Orleans, it could be walkable if we get in the right community. Lots of flavor, lots of things that are on our checklist for here's where we'd like to live. But in the end, I didn't feel it.
Every place that I found to look at, just looking on the outside, made us not want to pursue it. There was that one shotgun near the Rue de la Course or whatever the heck coffee shop, that one area there.
Yeah,
But
that was great.
they wanted a lot of money for it. It was near the railroad tracks.
Oh, that was okay.
Well, sure, it's
For me, not
okay
for you.
until you hear the train all the time, which, you know, it's a very busy train area. I mean, you're paying a lot to listen to a train all
But
the
do you
time.
remember both of us grew up near a major Air Force base? Don't you remember the planes going over and just vibrating the house?
But when you're a little kid, you don't realize that just seems normal, and you're not paying $1,800 a month for it. You're just
No, Mommy
you're
and
doing what
Daddy.
you're told.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
You know, so that's not a good
Good
argument.
analogy.
Yeah.
But yeah, for whatever reasons, some of them, yes, we could check off.
I
but
found
some
a
of
place that one off of Carrollton that looked pretty good.
The one
but
we
was,
looked at
But
it?
it was across the street from a school,
them. Oh yeah,
and next to it, you know,
that was
so,
standalone. That was
Yeah,
standalone.
yeah. That looked really very promising too. That would have been something to really think about. But I think when that school was in operation, probably would have been very noisy on the playground. I bet you there would have been buses and cars lined up lots of times during the week. I think it would have been probably not our cup of tea. It would have been noisy.
Although the idea would be, we didn't have to have a car. We could give up the car and just walk everywhere.
Yeah, but it wasn't that walkable.
Yeah.
It wasn't ideal. It was near the streetcar line, but the streetcar line is
Slow. You're not
it's
going to get anywhere
very
fast.
picturesque and fun, but it's not a great mode of travel. I used to ride it in New Orleans, but I'd ride it for the fun of it, not because I had to get somewhere.
But there were also bus lines going down there.
Yeah, but the bus, same way. The bus is not the fun way to go in New Orleans. The bus isn't the fun way to go in most places. Seattle,
Yeah.
it was ideal.
It was okay.
It was perfect in Seattle. We rode the bus all the time.
I know.
It was a great option for getting around the city. In New Orleans, I rode the bus a few times in New Orleans when I lived there. If I was going somewhere I didn't want to ride my bicycle. But it's like the bus system when we're in Tampa. I mean, if you're on the bus, it's because you have to be on the bus. You don't choose
Yeah, now-
to go on the bus. That's your
Yeah.
last resort. You know,
Well,
it's
Tampa's
not.
pretty spread out.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's also Ubers.
Ubers are expensive. You know, we thought we might go down to the French Quarter more from our house sit, but it would have been too expensive or not ideal.
I think, again, the situational awareness and having to be hyper aware compared to some places, I just didn't feel it.
Yeah.
And you are right. Anywhere you are, you have to be aware to some degree. You're right. I can't argue that point.
Yeah, we're
But
just.
there- but
we're
there's-
just- I feel like we're just banging heads and not really saying anything. We're just kind of bad mouthing New Orleans.
No. I guess that's the other thing is we did have a great time. All of the things that, if you've been to New Orleans before, yeah, it's still there,
Yeah.
but it didn't resonate with us as much. And
I
sure,
want
part
to
of it
go
could
back
be
to
age.
New Orleans, even after this last trip, which didn't feel that New Orleansy. We weren't in the area that I think of as New Orleans.
No, we were in a more residential area.
I think if we went back, I think we would definitely be in the Quarter or the Marigny or the Bywater. I think those are the only areas I want to be in that interest me in New Orleans. I lived twice before in the Garden District, so I already have that experience. You know, but since I lived in the French Quarter last time, I like that part of the city.
There are a few other places I might be able to twist your arm, but we'd have to pay more to be
Yeah,
in
I don't
there.
think so. Like going down Magazine Street, which
Might
I'll
not
have
be worth
footage
the
on here.
temper
I mean, it
tantrum.
was very busy.
Well, yeah, it
Hordes
was
of
busy.
people everywhere. It was lots of overpriced restaurants and shops. Super duper hipster street now. When I lived there before, it was, it wasn't that popular an area. It was a lot more ramshackle, had a lot more character. It was old time funky New Orleans, at least the New Orleans that I came to know at that time.
But
I'm sure people that had, grew up there in the 60s and 70s probably thought Magazine Street was, had gone downhill.
They weren't all frou-frou antiseptic shops.
Yeah.
Some of them still had character.
Maybe, but it was too many people for too few experiences. That's how I saw it. It was just crowded. Too much traffic. I don't like driving in New Orleans.
No, you don't like driving anyway. And the other thing was, I think part of it is people were starting to poke their heads out a little more. Tourism was starting to come back, and I think, because I thought, oh, let's go to Cafe Du Monde, coffee with chicory and beignets, and it was just, around the corners, and you couldn't just sit at a table, which, you'd lived there before, you could just sit down. You couldn't do that anymore.
I think if we lived in the quarter, if we got a place, I think we would find a lifestyle I think that we would like. But you have to get into it. I don't think it's that accessible. I don't think it looks doable from the outside. I think you just look at the chair, and you see, well, there's springs coming up out of it. There's a rusty nail. There's bed bugs. I don't know what. It just looks like you can't be comfortable there. But if you get in it and you do this here and you find your spot.
The bed bugs are still there.
Maybe bed bugs.
Maybe that's where you and I, exactly. That's like that place you said, oh, we should have looked.
Yeah, I think that was the only real viable option in a good location. There was one that I saw on Decatur Street, which was on the 3rd floor near the Abbey and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
That place, but it would have been crazy noisy. Who knows? And you were more open to that. But I think it was because they were charging higher rent. You have this perception that if they want more money, you're going to get more.
No, it was not. I look at the description, which sometimes is next to nothing, the pictures, and then you can go to Google and you look around it. No, it was those things together. You're right. Still wasn't a lot of information.
Yeah.
But no.
But if we had been serious, then we would have really gotten out, feet on the sidewalk looking at some place.
For a while, I kept trying to convince myself, sort of the square peg in a round hole. I just kept trying to convince myself, no, you just got to change your mindset. And I agree with you. Going back at a different time, maybe we'll see something differently. Yeah. But no, that's the other takeaway for me was to trust your instinct. If for whatever reason this isn't it, then it isn't it. And there's a million other places we can go. Yeah. And I agree with you. I still love New Orleans.
Because we're not ready to go overseas yet.
It's still an interesting time in terms of travel, you're right. But
anyway, at this time, we're out of New Orleans and we haven't got a place to live there. And in fact, we've lined up a house sit for the summer in Florida. So we'll be in Florida here probably through June.
New Orleans. We went to New Orleans for a month.
Yep.
We had a great time. We love New Orleans.
Was this shirt.
Oh, we did not buy shirts. So we do love New Orleans. You're right. We should say that. We love New Orleans.
We love New Orleans. But we didn't get a place to live there this time.
And we didn't.
We looked. Sort of.
And being outside the area, we realized, no, we want to be in the thick of things.
Yeah.
But the places we could find in the thick of things did not appeal to both of us.
Yeah. So here we are sitting on this couch, wondering what we're going to do in the future, as usual.
And feeling fortunate that we can be open to anything that comes up.
I think we'll go back to New Orleans one day, hopefully on a house sit, because it's a great way to travel. Although, don't see a lot of house sits in New Orleans that are in the Bywater and the Quarter and those areas. Most of them are in the more surrounding areas. Mm-hmm. Anywho, that's it. We'll have links to stuff all around. Thanks for watching our travel videos. Check out our cooking channel. Links to everything down below. We appreciate you listening.
Tell us about your trips to New Orleans.
Yeah. And we'll talk to you in the future. Bye-bye.
Bye.